It's in our DNA to try to have sex with aliens. You think it wasn't going to have an effect on Austin's heat levels when you're spraying all that weird pink and blue hair dye all over the place in Austin? It's more offensive to just be like, you know what, it's not Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, because we think looking at dwarves is offensive for people. We don't want to offend people by having dwarves. Oh, cool. Let's take away 7 jobs away from dwarf actors. Do you know how many dwarf roles were probably up in 2023? 8. And Tyrion Lannister got the other one.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode.
Oh, I love it and I hate it at the same time. You and I drink the water from the same vine. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the podcast. All right. If you've never been here before and you just stumbled on this video, hey, thanks. Stick around, friend. You know, you might see something you like. You might not like anything. And if that's the case, go ahead and give me a thumbs down. Okay. This is what's fucked up about creating content in 2023. A lot of people are like, I just want engagement. All engagement is good engagement. Is it though? Is that what you want on your soul? Okay, you want, you know, it's almost like it's a wild thing. Dude, we got philosophical quick in this one. It's a wild thing when you think about content and people who create content to get negativity because they're like, they either love you or hate you. And yeah, there's some truth to that, but it's like some of the stuff you see on social media, like the people who feed off of toxicity and trolls, I feel like it's a dark existence. All right. You can only dance with the devil, but eventually the devil's going to get their nails in you. All right. One of my favorite quotes of all time. You can dance with the devil, but you got to know when the music stops. All right. I think I've made quite a few different versions of that metaphor. You can dance. Listen, you can give the devil a hand job, but you got to know when he's going to come. All right. Because guess what? Devil only comes on your face. It's what I heard. All right. What? All right. Listen. Yeah. Strange times that we live in a world of existence. All right. I heard this interesting sentence. That we've cured boredom in life. And that's the weirdest thing to think about, is that they constantly have access to entertainment and attention. Like you can constantly give your attention to something, like constantly honed in to some bullshit, or it's just like whether it's porn, whether it's social media, whether it's a TV show or a podcast, like it's always connected. And I almost feel like, guys, gals, theys, thems, listen, them's the breaks. There is, we've talked about this before, that there is a level of feeling like podcasts are monotony, of just like repetitive conversations. And you have to really, like, I do feel like podcasting is at an oversaturated level. Okay. In so many aspects where everybody has a podcast now, and it's almost like, what's the next thing? What are we doing to, I think it's going to be BTS. And for you reggies out there who aren't a gearhead, behind the scenes, I feel like that's the next move, which is crazy because that's just going backwards. Like it's almost retro to go to vlogging. Like that's what everybody used to do, was vlog. And I feel like that is coming back into style because that's just what happens. All right. And it makes you wonder. I do think there's a fever pitch and a demand for getting rid of those distractions and moving towards experiencing life again. I feel like there's a silent scream for it. Wow, that was emotional. That was poetic, Evan. There's a silent scream for it with the masses. You just take one. Because I feel like we're not built for this, existence of social media and everything like that. Dude, we could regurgitate. This sounds like AI making an episode. Like if you told AI, make an episode of a 7 minutes in Evan, where I literally just spiel out things that I've said before. But I thought I looked this up, how long humans have been on Earth. And it was something like 200,000 years. Was it something? It was a large number where you're like, okay, that's a long time. And we've only had social media and all these dopamine hijackers for the past, 20 years? I don't even know I guess social media really started taking off, 2008, 2005. I feel like that's when it started, becoming something. I mean, it's obviously turned into something completely different now, but like that is a fraction of how long we've been having to deal with a dopamine hijacker like that and an attention hijacker. What is that quote or that supernormal stimuli, hypernormal stimuli? It's a book about where they basically hijack your dopamine, receptors, and they do this with different creatures in nature and everything like that. Where one of the studies that they did is they had these butterflies that they had fake ones created and with the biggest colors on their wings and just very vibrant and everything. And it was all blown out of proportion. And these dumb guy butterflies were so infatuated with these fake butterflies that they just flew around them till they died. They were like, I'm all set on regular butterflies. I'm going to fly around this shit until something happens. Like they were so addicted to it. It's almost like bugs in a bug zapper is what was happening. And it was the same thing with birds. They were like these baby birds. There's like a little mark on the beak of these birds that makes them attracted to like peck to get fed when they're babies. It's just nature. Wow. And they did it with a fake bird and made this huge beak with a big old, dot. And these baby birds were just going insane, just wanting it. They're like, oh my God. And that's what it feels like is happening with fake lips, fake asses, everything filters. All of that is like this hyper-normal stimuli. I hope that's the term. And it's just like, it's literally blowing out all your dopamine. And real life can't compete. So you know what you got to do? You got to disconnect, baby. You got to there's so much where it's just exhausting. I feel like you see people who haven't been outside enough and they're just like, they're zoned into just like a weird, buzzing. They're just gone. They're out there just looking at the weirdest shit on the internet. I don't know what any of that had to do. Oh, yeah. This is a crazy thing that I always think about. I don't always think about this shit. You ever seen The Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson? Phenomenal show. That first episode is amazing because there's a calendar stat that I think is just so cool, is that he looks at, he creates basically a timeline of the existence of the universe and Earth, pretty much Earth, of how long Earth has been here. And he condenses the entire existence of Earth into one calendar year. And he's taking you through the timeline of when things are happening and what's happening across this year, all to put it in perspective. And basically, if you want to see how long humans have been on Earth, we are in the last hour of the last day before the new year. Not even such a tiny percentile of what the Earth existence has been. And it makes you realize like, oh yeah, we ain't shit. Okay. There's been a whole bunch of other shit happening for so long that we're just not privy to it. All right. And I think about that and I connect that to how long technology and social media has been around, in the sense of how quick, like, I don't know if global warming is real. I know that the earth is heating up. I'm sure greenhouse gases has an effect on it, but there could be something to be said that earth hasn't had enough time to adapt to humans' existence, and the fact that we're just sucking all the oil out of the core. What could go wrong with that? They're like, hey, this molten oil, that lubricates our core and everything. I mean, we're just sucking it out of the ground. What could go wrong? I really don't know. I'm asking anybody. But it's like we as a species haven't had social media enough, like, to be able to adapt and to handle it. So it feels like social media could be our global warming. Whoa. Okay. And the icebergs are melting. All right. And that's our brain melting. All our dopamine is the icebergs melting in this metaphor. It might have been the most profound thing I've ever said, and none of it made sense. So if you stuck with me on that, I applaud you. All right. I don't know if there was even a point, but is there a point to anything? That's what I'm getting to, is AI, all of this stuff. What's the point of anything other than making your existence the best existence possible? Okay. To just become the best version of yourself. Because you know what I think is so dope to think about is, like, mankind, we are going to get off of Earth at some point. We have to. What is it? The sun in like 7 billion years is just going to get hot enough to burn the oceans. Like the oceans are not going to last with how hot the sun is going to get, allegedly. All right. As you can see, I have the universal knowledge of an educated third grader. Okay. I know about as much as a maybe a second grader entering a science fair. All right. And that's me pushing it. That's me being very cocky. All right. But I like thinking about that, of like, we are one day, once we get off of Earth and we figure out how to, I think what it is we're going to have to figure out how to breathe space air. I don't know if that's what we want to start working on. We want to start getting, adapting, maybe that's something we slowly do. We'll evolve over time. It's what happens is we evolve to be able to live in certain conditions. Maybe eventually science and genetics and all of that, we can adapt. All right. We can breathe underwater. We can breathe. We learn, it'll probably be some medical device where we can it becomes an instant thing where we just can breathe in anything and it converts it to oxygen so fast. Or we can install something in our system that just converts anything that comes into it into oxygen. Like we just have that built into us. So dope. All right. It's going to happen as long as we don't go crazy with nukes and we don't fuck up the world before we get off of Earth, because we need to get off of Earth to hedge our bets as a species. All right. Once we get onto Mars and we're set up over there, we got this in the bag. We will dominate the universe. And it's going to be crazy because one day we're going to be interstellar creatures and it's going to be like, dude, you guys remember when we were only on Earth? Like there was a species that were only on Earth. It's almost like the way we look at mankind that originated in Africa and the Bering Strait or whatever, and also historical education and maybe a first grader. We look at them, the third grader. I've read a book or two. We look at them and we're like, oh, they didn't even have boats. They didn't even have this. And now we have planes and all this forms of, like, we can just get across Earth in a couple days. You can be on the other side of the planet. That's fascinating to think of it that way, because one day we're going to be able to do that with space. We're just going to be like, remember when we were only on that one shitty planet? They couldn't control the sun. That's when it's going to get weird. All right. Because then we're going to have interstellar wars and it's just going to be expanding. I think in our DNA, we always fuck shit up. There's always war. And it's just like the hope of maybe we evolve past that. Maybe we evolve, it's almost like, here's a metaphor for it. When I grew up in a boxing gym, I always looked at things like I want to go compete and become the best boxer that I can be. I want to, just try to become elite. And there's a bigger picture to this. So when I would be sparring some people, I want to be looking at it of like, I need to win this battle. I need to beat them up. This is the fight. It was always, I'm practicing things. I'm trying to get better at longevity. I don't want to hurt this person because I want to keep sparring with them. I don't want to get hurt because it'll put me out for weeks. So I'm not putting everything I have into this. This is a tool. But then you get some people, they're called hometown heroes. There's people that are only focused on this gym war. They only want to beat you. All right. Because they're not thinking bigger mentality of I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to do this. There's bigger and better things. This is all that matters. And I think that's in every walk of life. But it was something I always would think about. And there's people I wouldn't spar with because I'm like, nope, this person always just tries to win this. And then they're not focused on the next thing. And it's because they're only focused on this. And that's what earthlings are like, is we're always focused on our little battles. You see that in people all the time. You see that in families where like the family, like I used to love, this is a weird thing about me. I used to love going in the sauna and talking to strangers. It's one of my favorite things to do, is just to sit there with a stranger and have a conversation. Neither of us have our phone. We're in here for 20, 30 minutes. Let's chitty chat it up. All right. I want to learn about you. What is your life thing? Where'd you grow? And I learned so much about people with their family focus, in how much that by focusing only on this shit at home, that they're just lost in it. They care so much about these bickerings that they're not growing past it. You're too close to the trees to see the forest. Get the fuck out of your own bullshit. That's what I always try to think. Whenever there's too much bickering and shit going on in my life where I'm like, dumb shit that doesn't matter, I'm like, I'm trying to evolve past this. In the big picture, none of this matters. It's silly drama. Let's be gone. Let's leave this universe. All right. And that's what I feel like earthlings have to do. If we're going to get out of here, maybe once we get off Earth, we won't need to dominate because we see the big picture. We're like, hey, there's plenty of resources. We don't have to worry about that. Let's just keep exploring and expanding. But since it's only Earth and all the map is filled out and everything like that, we go, hey, it's us versus them. We need to send more money to Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. Ooh, trigger word. We need to send more money. And it's like all this weird, we're always battling because this is all we have is we're resource guarding. But we get off of Earth, baby. There's plenty of space aliens for everyone, all right? You don't think? Listen, this is going to be the real problem if we get off Earth. It's in the back of everybody's mind. Are we going to fuck aliens? Okay? It's in our DNA. It's in our DNA to try to have sex with aliens. It is what it is, all right? Listen, since the dawn of man, why do you think men were exploring and going different places? Exotic chicks. They were just after it. Now you're telling me there might be an exotic chick up there with tentacles, all right? Who knows what they're doing up there, all right? But it's going to happen. And it's just something, it's an elephant in the room of, I don't know, that's just the price you pay for exploration, all right? In the name of science and exploration. Because listen, you get up there with an alien and she makes a move on you, it'd be rude to not. All right. You're trying to international affairs and everything and bring a peacekeeper. You don't want to be telling them no. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to insult them. Do it for mankind. But you got to be good to them. Okay. No ghosting them. You have to be ready to commit. All right. Be ready for that interstellar relationship. All right. That really went off the rails quick. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but that's just what the fuck we do sometimes. And I think it's healthy. All right. We were getting way too serious. This was getting way too heady for a alleged comedy podcast. All right. That's the other thing. Yeah, it's just, ooh, I heard thunderstorms. Listen, I welcome it. Beowulf is going to scratch on that door any second now. My dog, for those who don't know. It's been a heat wave, baby. All right. It's been a heat wave in Texas. The most 100-degree plus days consecutive in Austin ever. All right. And you know what? I blame the liberals. All right. What did you think was going to happen to the ozone layer over Austin with all that hair dye? All right. You think it wasn't going to have an effect on Austin's heat levels when you're spraying all that weird pink and blue hair dye all over the place in Austin? All right. You're out there protesting all the time, just breathing all that weird air up into the ozone layer. The clouds are melting in Austin. You go downtown Austin, there's not a cloud in sight. Why? The liberals chase them all away. Clouds are racist, all right? Clouds are racist. I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. We're spitballing right now. We have any current events? What is going on in the world? Oh, speaking of dumb shit. Oh shit, August 20th, pool party. I ain't going to someone's pool party. Sorry. I saw, and this is something that irks me. All right, this is a real opinion. These Disney movies. I get annoyed when these movies, they start putting out movies, taking an old movie and then completely changing it to fit a woke ideology. I read, and I saw this clip about it where the girl who plays Snow White, which it's like so crazy that you just took Snow White, obviously a white girl, and you're like, nah, she's Indian or Hispanic now. Like that name, the Snow White, like she's literally so white. Like that's crazy. Like maybe make it Snow Brown or like Brown Snow, something. Why don't we just make a new fucking original idea? All right. She goes, then this Snow White, she's not going to be waiting for a prince to rescue her. Oh, cool. So then it's not Snow White. Cool. So you're doing a completely different movie? Oh, no. You're doing a cash grab by using the title Snow White, but you're just going to shoehorn a dumb movie plot into it. And you might be like, Evan, maybe you're being a little aggressive because this is a kid's movie. No, I'm fucking not. All right. You're not angry enough about this. Because you know what other dumb shit they did? Apparently, they got rid of the dwarves in Snow White. It's no longer Snow White and the 7 dwarves. They made it Snow White and just 7 regular guys because they thought it was offensive to have dwarves. You know what's offensive? Thinking that it's offensive to just get rid of the dwarves, all right? To just be like, it's more offensive to just be like, you know what? It's not Snow White and the 7 dwarves because we think looking at dwarves is offensive for people. We don't want to offend people by having dwarves. Oh, cool. Let's take away 7 jobs away from dwarf actors. Let's not sit there and show the kids, the dwarf children, that, hey, look, there's other people doing big things and actors in Hollywood. You know, we'll just remove 7 roles from you guys and give them to regular guys. Okay, listen, do you know how many dwarf roles were probably up in 2023? 8. And Tyrion Lannister got the other one. All right. He's literally cornered the market on dwarf acting, and for good reason. The guy is phenomenal. Tyrion Lannister, dude. I'm not very tall, but when I start seeing Tyrion Lannister, I'm like, you know what? Take me down a couple inches. All right. I like what this guy's saying, and I want to be part of it. All right. All the short kings in the world. But they need to get rid of this. And here's what I do think is cool. Representation. And I think this word representation has been hijacked by dumb people in Hollywood. I really do think it's been hijacked because representation for the sake of representation is so dumb. Like, oh, here's this story. Let's just put an Asian person in it. Let's just put a minority in it just so we have representation. Why don't we have real representation and actually tell one of these stories rather than just shoehorning it in to something where it doesn't make sense? Like, oh, like I haven't seen The Little Mermaid. Okay. And there was all this controversy that it was a black actress. I could give two shits because I'm like, I don't watch The Little Mermaid. But I'll tell you right now, there was a dope ass way to do it that I don't think they did it. If they just did The Little Mermaid story, I haven't seen it, so this is all just made up on the spot. If they just did The Little Mermaid story and just put a black actress in it as the same role, everything, that's dumb. All right. What could have been so dope is intertwine these cultures to make it make sense. Listen, I went to school in Puerto Rico. I met some of the dopest girls from the Virgin Islands. St. LaCroix, okay, or St. Croix. LaCroix is where you go and it's just all sparkling water out there. The Virgin Islands, listen, the Calypso music, I love it. There's so much dope culture and lore and magic and everything in their beliefs. Like they have a lot of very cool like things about their culture that you don't see in movies and TV. And if you really want to show an island, a mermaid that is a minority, let's show something from the Virgin Islands. Let's show something from the Caribbean. All right, let's make it make sense because we have these dope stories that we could be telling, but you're being lazy. You're like, I don't want to tell all this other story, so we'll just shoehorn a woke movement into it without actually doing any extra work. And that's why these movies bomb, is because you're forcing them down people's throat without actually doing the work of maybe showcasing. Okay, listen, something I saw very recent that resonated with me that I was like, okay, that is actually pretty cool because you included things about the culture. The latest Transformers movie, okay, you can say what you want about it. I thought it was great. I'll tell you right now, I'm a sucker for a dumb movie. All right, listen, I love every Godzilla movie. I love every King Kong movie. I love Transformers, except the Bumblebee movie. I never saw it because it just felt disrespectful. I love a movie like that. But the main character in the movie is actually Puerto Rican, okay? And what's dope is he's the kind of Puerto Rican that I know because I have so much family from Brooklyn in the Bronx. Like he was playing that role as one of those characters. They didn't take this role and all of a sudden just put a Puerto Rican kid in it, but he didn't act like a Puerto Rican kid. He wasn't cooking Puerto Rican food at home. He wasn't living like a Puerto Rican experience. So it was dope to see and be like, oh, that's dope. Like that they actually included something and they made the role make sense. Do you get what I'm saying? I know you can't answer me right now, but you could be rolling your eyes and that's fine. Okay. I just think I love storytelling, obviously. I love movies. I love books. I love all of it. I like anything. Like, dude, I just finished reading all the Harry Potter books again. And, dude, certified Potterhead. I love the world that J.K. Rowling, don't get me started on my support for her. I love the world that she created. Okay. I think it's one of the greatest worlds ever. And I think with storytelling, what I love about it is when there's a unique perspective, when there's real emotions and there's effort into it. But a lot of these movies, they don't put any effort into the original story or telling it in a real way. I think it doesn't even have to be a racial thing. And I think it is dumb when these movies go into it being like, they have a message that they want to tell. Tell the story. And if there's a message in that story, it'll tell itself. People aren't stupid, these audiences. And it's a reason why I think a lot of these movies are starting to tank is because they're trying to force a message without the story. Or they're not even They're not even focused on the story. They're being lazy and thinking that reality isn't real. And I don't know. Maybe they think the audience is dumber than they are. I know Barbie did really well. I haven't seen it. I've heard great things about it. I've actually heard that it's a great movie. It has a great message, but it also, I don't think I don't know. But I heard they actually did some good things with it. But I'll have to watch it before I can commit to that. But I know The Little Mermaid tanked. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just a bad movie. I think that, other live action Disney movies have done really well. I don't know, because they went so like woke with it and wanting to do it a certain way that the story wasn't there. Because I know there's like an initial, like, movies catch fire by word of mouth. Obviously there's hype if there's a connection, but the only way I really go see a movie outside of it's very rare I go to the theaters. I might go once a month, twice a month, if that, especially during off seasons, but it's very rare for me just to go without having more than one or two people tell me it's a great movie to see. If I have a couple people tell me that, I go, okay, well, I'll check it out. Had they made a great story with The Little Mermaid, had they worked hard on it, I think they would have caught fire and it would have done really well. Movies like Encanto, Coco are examples of great movies that through word of mouth have just done phenomenal, and they worked so hard on it. Listen, I'll say this till the end of my days. Encanto is one of the most fire playlists you can ever listen to. I still listen to it. Pressure like a drip, 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 that'll never stop. Whoa. Also, I heard the CGI in The Little Mermaid was terrible. Okay. I don't know. I didn't see it, but I heard it was terrible. What about movie reviews? What if I start watching some of these movies and then reviewing it? Okay, maybe. We'll see what happens. I know The Flash did terrible as well. They lost something like 200 million, which is just crazy. Okay. To think about losing that much money, Chuck. All right. That is wild. And I support it. I know Ezra Miller is a weirdo. I do want to watch it. It's been one of those movies that's on my radar to watch just because Michael Keaton comes back as Batman. Phenomenal. I love a good universe crossover. All right. And just different timelines and, all of that. But then again, did they do some stupid shit with being like, oh, we're bringing in Supergirl? It's this whole thing of an inclusion and I don't know. I think it just doesn't pan out for storytelling. All right. I even saw this thing where it was like Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel. They're going to make like a more playful, silly movie like with Marvel. I know I kept saying Marvel, but I meant Captain Marvel. It's weird to call it a Marvel movie with Captain Marvel. It's a lot of Marvels. All right. And saying that people have superhero fatigue is a reason why some of these movies aren't doing as well. I don't buy that. I think that the storytelling has just become dog shit with some of these movies, because you know what was great? The Joker. The Joker is a phenomenal movie, okay, that just happened to have the Joker. All right, it was about this, but it wasn't even like a crazy, it's almost not fair to call that a superhero movie. But I also thought that Batman with Robert Pattinson was phenomenal. I think he killed that role. I think it was great. Emo Batman. I think it was great. Okay. At the same time, I thought Morbius was dog shit. I thought Black Adam was dog shit. Okay. And I saw a conversation where The Rock and Kevin Hart were talking about why Black Adam wasn't going to be in, James Gunn's universe going forward. And I'm like, are we really that detached from reality of you're wondering why? Like the movie, the storytelling, we have to look at it. I'm someone that loves Dwayne The Rock Johnson as a person. I think he's so dope. But he even was like, okay, this was DC's highest opening movie for the box office. And I'm like, you're focused on the wrong things. If you don't think your name being attached to it has any pull, like that's crazy to just think that this isn't, like not even analyzing the story to be like, did we tell this correctly? It's just all wild. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this rant. I feel like we were very rant heavy. All right. I apologize if we went dark on the universe, on aliens, on these movies. Okay. And I'm gonna start watching some of these movies that I critique because maybe I'm wrong. But it just doesn't feel that way when you start going woke like this. If you have any movie recommendations, I love movies. All right. Who doesn't? You ever met someone who's just like, nah, I'm not into movies? What's always funny to me though, is when people say they really like music. Ugh, I love music. Yeah, no shit. What? Who have you ever been around and they're just like, no, turn that off. Like they start hearing drums and they're like, ugh, it makes my blood boil. Someone just hits a falsetto and they're just like, I could punch you in the fucking face. Yeah, like no shit, everybody. Everybody likes music. Another one is the people who say they love water. Ugh, I love water. Do you have water? Yeah, no shit, we need it to live. Okay? Ugh, I'm a foodie. Yeah, every single person that's ever existed on the planet is a foodie. Do you think there's anybody who's ever sat down at a dinner table and was just like, I just got to get through this? And they're just like, it's wild. It's wild when that's some people, it's like they identify, like that's part of their, you need to get a hobby, you got to get outside. If your identity is food, if you're like, no, but I really like food. Don't get me started on the people who know talkie before coffee. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been great this episode. All right. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the podcast. Starting to put more content on YouTube. I know I've been saying that for 7 years. It's going to start happening, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, no matter what, I still love you.